does anybody want to guess when we were in the book of Daniel last on Sunday evenings? I have the opportunity to go back on the computer and see when the last message was, so I have that date of March 26th in my mind, but I was wondering, can anybody guess it? March 26th, exactly. Almost 2 months ago that we were in Daniel chapter 3. So I thought this evening, and I know this is a little bit long of a video, it's about 13 minutes long, but I thought it would be perfect tonight to have the kids join me up here in front. We're going to do a flashback to our COVID videos when Anna and I took out some of the church puppets and we told the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So I need the kids to join me right down here in front. I don't have any popcorn, I don't have any candy, but we're going to get right down here in front and we're going to show you this video, and the rest of you can watch along as well. Grab a seat there. If you want to sit on the floor, you sure can sit on the floor as well. And we're going to take a journey back to some of these Sunday school lessons that we tried to do during COVID, and this is Anna and I teaching the kids the lesson on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and the fiery furnace.
What would it be like to be in a fiery furnace? Who knows, boys and girls? That's what today's lesson is about from Daniel chapter 3. If you have your Bible, grab it because this furnace is getting warm, and we're going to tell you a story from Daniel chapter 3 today in our lesson. And so we want you to be informed. There are printouts that your parents have from emails, and they can print those off and you can do those later. But right now, let's go on. Here's our memory verse for today, Isaiah 41, verse number 10. Fear not, do not be dismayed, for I am with you, for I am your God, I will strengthen you. Kids, take a look here. We got some flames here and some flames here. And I think I count 1, 2, 3 guys. I'm not sure who that is, but we'll have to tell you about that later. Boys and girls, have some friends that are going to help us in telling our story today. And you know Digger, hey kids! And you know Bobo.
Hi!
And you've met Anna before too.
Hello.
And today we have a new friend we're going to introduce to you, and his name is Rennie. Hey boys and girls! And so these guys are going to help me out with my story today. Oh, Dave. Oh, Dave. Yes, there, Digger. I want a very important part in the story. A very important part, huh? Yeah, I want an important part too.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you know, there are only so many parts I can hand out for the story today from Daniel chapter 3, but I would say probably the most prominent person in the story, the most powerful person in the story is on an earthly standpoint, is probably the king. Oh, pick me, please, pick me. I want to be the king. You want to be the king? All right, but if you're the king, then I need 3 really good friends. We're really good friends. Yeah, really good friends. Well, okay, we got a king, we got 3 friends. What story do you think we're telling? The 3 little pigs. Yeah, definitely the 3 little pigs.
No. It's the 3 little bears.
No, it's not the 3 bears. It's not the 3 pigs.
Huh?
No. Is it Little Red Riding Hood? Is there a king in Little Red Riding Hood? Good point. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, no, today's story comes from the Bible. It comes from Daniel chapter 3. It's the story of Shadrach. That's will be you, Rennie. Oh, yeah. And Meshach. Anna, you get to be Meshach.
Cool.
And Abednego. That's you, Bobo.
Oh, yay!
Wait. Does that mean I'm King Nebuchadnezzar? Yep, you're King Nebuchadnezzar. No! I don't want to be Nebuchadnezzar. I heard that he makes really good chocolate bunnies. No, that's from VeggieTales. That's not in the Bible. All right, I think now we got all the parts handed out. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get everybody dressed, okay? Here we go.
Let's go costumes?
Yep, costumes and all. That'll be fun. All right, let's go get our costumes on. Anna, you're going to give us a snap. In 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Everybody has their costumes on, right? Yeah. You guys look pretty good. Oh, yeah, I'm the king. Yes, you did. You chose to be the king, Digger. That is exactly right. Yeah. So tell us the story, Dave. Tell us the story. Okay. All right. It's from Daniel chapter 3. And there are 3 characters that are in this story. Well, there's 4 of us. Yeah, there are 4 of us. But there are 3 characters that are very important. The king is one of them. Well, he is important to the story, but he's not the most important in the story. In fact, even the 3 aren't the most important. But we have 3. One is Shadrach. That's me.
Meshach, that's me. And Abednego, that's me.
All right, and they were servants of the king. Yes, servants of the king. Wait for your line, Digger. I'll tell you when to speak. Oh, sorry. And the king had a statue. He had a giant band. And when the music played, everyone was supposed to bow down to the statue. Play the music! Play the music! Wait a minute! Something wrong? Well, there is something wrong. But is it my line yet? Nope, it's not your line yet. There was something wrong. You see, the king had given the decree that they all had to bow down to the statue, but there were 3 who were not bowing. That's right, Dave. We can't bow to the statue.
No, we can't.
We are supposed to serve the one true God, and that's who we have to serve, right?
Yeah.
So when everybody else bows, we're going to stand and be courageous and do what is right.
Yeah.
But the king had plans about that. He said, when the music plays again, you must bow to the statue, and if you don't, it will be into the fiery furnace. All right, so this time, boys and girls, guess what? The music played, and I think this time they should bow down. Don't you think they should bow down? Stop the music! Something wrong? They are not bowing! So the Shadrach and Abednego, they were brought before the king. And the king said, do you not understand? Your God can't deliver you from me. And you must bow. I'm going to give you one more try. And we're going to play the music. And you must bow to my statue. And if you don't, it's the fiery furnace for you. So they played the music one more time. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow. Cut! In fact, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came to the king, and the king said, what God is able to deliver you from my hands? And they answered the king, oh, King Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter.
If we have to answer you, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king.
But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image that you have set up.
And the king had had enough. And he said in his rage, off with their heads! No. And he said in his rage, take them away and put them in jail. hell. No, he said, into the fiery furnace. Oh yeah, that's right, fiery furnace. Yeah, let's take them to the fiery furnace. And that's exactly what happened. And so the king threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fiery furnace. And while they were in the fiery furnace, the king said, he looked down in the fiery furnace and he said from the outside, "Hey, didn't we put 3 men in the furnace?" And you know what? There was 3 men. And they said there are 3 men in the furnace. You only put 3 men in. It was Shadrach,
Meshach, and Abednego.
But then the king said, wait a minute. I don't just count 3, I count 4 down there in the furnace. And the 4th one, it looks like the Son of God. And with that, the king gave the order to bring Shadrach, Meshach,
and Abednego
out of the fiery furnace. That's right, boys and girls. God had delivered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the fiery furnace. In fact, the fiery furnace had been heated up even hotter than it usually was, 7 times hotter. In fact, the Bible even says that the guard who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fiery furnace, he died. Dig? Yeah, Digger? I don't want to be the mean king anymore. Well, I think we've finished our story, so maybe we should talk about our application in our normal outfits. What do you say?
Let's go.
All right, Anna, snap us out of here. 3, 2, 1. All right, boys and girls, we're back, and we're going to talk about a little bit of application.
What's application, Dave?
Well, it's when you take the truths of the Bible and you apply them to your life. Yep. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know one thing I'm going to apply. What's that, Digger? I'm never going to be a wicked king ever again. That's a good one.
Well, it was pretty hot in the furnace. I don't know if you want to be Shadrach, Meshach, or Abednego.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Boys and girls, you can always do what's right. It's always right to do right. And sometimes that takes courage. Like sometimes you have to stand alone. You ever had to do that, Bobo? The only one who wants to do right?
When that whole crowd was bowing down, but we were the only ones who stood.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to do what's right, and God will give us the courage to do what's right. And so, boys and girls, the application is to learn a lesson from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And to understand there is one God to serve, and that is the God of heaven. And he was able to deliver Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the fiery furnace, and he's able to help you as well. And so we'll say goodbye to our friends now. Yeah, one more time that we have to say goodbye, but that's okay. We'll come back again, kids, and we'll have a great time together.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks for being with us today, kids.
Yeah, thanks, kids.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. So let's go over to the board here and let's review, if we can, our memory verse just one more time here. So kids, here's the verse here today. We want you to get this one down really good by way of memory. Isaiah 41, verse number 10. Fear not, be not dismayed, for I am with you, for I am your God, I will strengthen you. Notice our 4 guys in the furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the Son of God. Fear not, be not dismayed, for I am with you, for I am your God, I will strengthen you. Isaiah chapter 41, verse number 10. When you think about this next week, we got a couple worksheets that you can take with you. This came in the mail for your parents that they can print off, and you can do these worksheets this next week. First one, you got to cut off the squares on the bottom and match them with the saying there on the worksheet. A little bit of cut, paste there for you this week. The next one has some case studies on it. So you have to think about obeying God and doing what's right. And so that would be a good one for you guys to work on. You get to draw your own picture in there. Fill in the blanks about doing what's right. Well, it's been a great joy to be able to be with you this week. I hope you have a great week as you continue to serve Jesus Christ. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. We'll let you know on some of the details of weeks to come. But for right now, always obey God and do what's right and have courage to do what's right. God bless you. Have a good day.
All right, kids. Well, I don't know if you remember all that, but we remember that. And, those are some of the exact same lessons we're going to see tonight from Daniel chapter 3. And I didn't bring puppets to help me out here tonight, but maybe I should have. But I thought you guys would enjoy that little memory there. And so you can head back to your parents, or you can sit with a different set of parents if you want. You're free to go, okay? All right? Everybody else, grab your Bible and turn to Daniel chapter 3. I just want to let you know that I was speaking with Janet here a little bit earlier today, and she was not with Baptism Missions the whole 60 years. She was with ABWE and then with Baptism Missions. And so in missionary service, though, 60 years. And again, we're thankful for your testimony of that here tonight, and hope that you had a chance to encourage her and to be encouraged by her. And so we're thankful for how God has continued to show his faithfulness even in her life, and joy to be able to have her here with us here today. We began on March 26th, Daniel chapter 3. We looked at verses 1 through verse number 12. This is the scenario where Nebuchadnezzar set up this statue. He called people to come and worship it. And this has a premise with it by way of a little bit of backdrop here for us, if we can. But it has a little bit of chaism to the text. And so it builds to the Jews showing their commitment to the one true God, and then builds out to the eventual end where Nebuchadnezzar calls for worship to the God of Israel, which is interesting because the call of Nebuchadnezzar at the beginning is to come and worship his God, to worship his statue. And the threat is made here, we'll see in just a moment, of it's God versus God, the true God versus the gods of the Babylonians. And so we looked at those 3 points last time. The statue, how it was a statue of defiance. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar's dream was not a 100% golden statue. It wasn't even pictured in his dream as something to be worshipped. But he took what was interpreted by that dream and ran with it and said, I know it looks like my kingdom's going to fall according to this dream, but guess what? My kingdom's not going to fall. In fact, I'm going to build a statue, and everybody's going to come worship it, and my kingdom's going to go on forever and ever and ever. So the statue was a statue of defiance. The decree was a decree of pressure. You bow, or else you're going into this fiery furnace. Now, to build a statue like this, you're going to need a furnace. That was probably a furnace that was used to make brick. And you wonder, well, what was a furnace doing there, I heard a Memorial Day weekend rumor about a family that was going to have s'mores at some point in time around a campfire. Right, Hudson? Yeah, okay, all right. And so, you can have that. This isn't a campfire that's taking place there on the plains of Babylon. This is, what they used to build the statue most likely, and it's still remaining there. And so the pressure is, if you don't bow, you're going into the furnace, and you're not going to survive that. I mean, if on a human level, you're not going to survive that. So there's pressure there. And then thirdly, we looked at, on March 26th, we looked at the accusation against those who were obedient. Those who were obedient to God. The accusation is that they are acting in defiance to not only Nebuchadnezzar, but the gods of the Babylonians. So again, you could sit there and look at this passage, and we could come out with, hey, be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But that's not the main premise. It's God versus God that we have here. And the true God shows himself as supreme and one who is worthy of worship, and actually turns Nebuchadnezzar to say some things that God is going to continue to humble Nebuchadnezzar to the point of where he has to acknowledge that God is the one who is supreme and worthy of worship. So let's look at here today, if we can, 3 things that came from a children's song that I learned when I was a kid, and that was that they would not bend, they would not bow, and they would not burn. And so that's my outline tonight. It's not original with me, but it fits right to our text here. First of all, that these 3 men, they would not bend. They would not bend on their beliefs. They would not bend on doing what was right. Look at verses 13 through 15 of Daniel chapter 3. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought the men before the king. And King Nebuchadnezzar spoke to them, saying, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods?" You remember I told you just a moment ago? It was the true God versus the gods of the Babylonians. What is Nebuchadnezzar enraged about? Is it true you aren't serving my gods? And nor worshiping the golden image which I have established. Now, if you're ready at this time to hear the music of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the psaltery, the symphony of all kinds of music, you will fall down and worship the image which I have made. Good. But if you do not worship, then you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning furnace. And here it comes. Here's the challenge. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? Well, you asked the question, Nebuchadnezzar. And so we'll give you the answer, Nebuchadnezzar. It's the God of heaven. You should already know this. If you go back to the quandary you found yourself in and the inability of the gods that you serve to deliver on the interpretation of your dream. But how soon Nebuchadnezzar forgets that he was putting out this plea for the interpretation of his dream, holding out on his wise men to make good on their promise of being able to serve him in this way, and they could not do it. And yet Daniel said, look, I can't interpret this dream, but the God of heaven can, and so give me time to find out the interpretation, and God granted it. And Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, this did not come from me. This came from the God of heaven. But how soon? I mean, we're a short time after that, and already Nebuchadnezzar has forgotten. I would say, again, I'm not, by applying this, I'm not saying that we are Nebuchadnezzar, but I would say our thinking sometimes tends to be like Nebuchadnezzar. And that is that we forget the magnificent things that God has done. We need to rehearse those. We need to tell those stories over and over and over again. Because when you compare the true God to the false gods of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar asked the question, who can deliver you out of my hands? Well, the God of heaven can. And the God of heaven will. And the faith and the courage and the loyalty, one commentary I read this last week said the fidelity of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the faithfulness on their part was because of the greatness of their God, not because of their great faith. And so what we see here is they do not bend. They do not bend at the threat of, you know what, we're going to put God against God. And Nebuchadnezzar saying, your God's not going to win. Your God's not going to win. And so what we find here again is that he puts out the threat. Look down to verse number 28 if you can. I know that's not in the actual text of the point here, but Nebuchadnezzar spoke and saying, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel to deliver his servants who trusted in him. And they have frustrated the king's word and yielded their bodies that they should not serve nor worship any god except their own God." Well, you're playing a different tune on that flute now, Nebuchadnezzar. Sounding a little bit different there, isn't it? I just had the opportunity here to go on the 7th and 8th grade retreat with Lori's class from Mayflower Christian School. We went up to camp, and on the way back from camp, and he's not here tonight, but you can ask him about it. On the way back from camp, Lori does a thing where they they stop at Dollar Tree, which now is $1.25 tree, okay, because of inflation, okay? And Lori gives them the exact change, and they can go into this store and they can buy anything they want, but we're going to come out of the store, we're going to draw names out of the hat, and you're going to present your gift to somebody in the class. And so they go in, they pick out something, they're checking out. The guy at the cash register has to ask for pennies because we're only giving the kids just enough, and he's got to call pennies out from the safe. And the lady who brings the pennies out is Mrs. I Grumpy, hate my job at Dollar Tree. I don't know how you could hate your job at Dollar Tree. It's just like, man alive, you know? It says everything $1.25. I always come into the store and say, everything for $1.25, I'll take the whole store. And I just see if they laugh, you know? Because it says everything $1.25. So the kids buy their presents, we come out, we start exchanging gifts. One kid bought a pacifier, and it was presented to Tyler Travis, and Tyler Travis had on these aviator sunglasses and this little pacifier, and he had his hood on. He looked like the little fox in Zootopia from Disney. He's sucking on this little pacifier. And somebody bought a flutophone, a little flute. And that was given to Gabe Lawfer. And Gabe Lawfer played that flute the whole way back from Ankeny back to Creston. And everybody was upset at Gabe for playing this flute. He had one note. I said to him, hey, why don't you play Batman? Na 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 Batman. And his Batman went, na 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 Batman. It's just one note. And everybody was all upset at him for playing this recorder, this flutophone thing, and you know, and I'm like, don't be upset at him. Be upset at who bought it. Who bought it and gave it to him? That's the person you need to be upset at. And bless his heart, he got it home, and then Blake got out his recorder from elementary school, and they tried to duet together. But you know what? Nebuchadnezzar is playing a flute, a different flute here in verse number 28, isn't he? It's different than what he was saying back in verse number 15. What God is going to be able to deliver to you from me. Now he says, your God did deliver you. And I have nothing more to say other than it is, you put your risk of your lives on the line, and God delivered you. Well, they would not bend. Secondly here, they would not bow. If I can get it to go there. Verses 16 through 23. And they were committed to the God who is able. Their commitment was to the God who is able. Now, some have read this text, this portion of the text, and they think that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are having a blip of doubt in their faith. And I don't think that's what's going on here. I'm going to use the text to show you that here. Look at verse number 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. In other words, we don't have to think really hard about this one. We don't have to come up with an answer here. The answer is already here. Verse 17. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor will we worship the image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, and the expression on his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the fiery furnace, 7 times more than it usually was heated. How they calculated the exact 7, I don't know on that. Basically, I think the Bible is just explaining to us here that he heated it up as hot as it could possibly go. Then these men were bound, and their coats and their trousers and their turbans and their other garments, and they were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, the furnace was exceedingly hot, and the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar, astonished, he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire?" And they answered him and said to him, "True, O king." So here we have they don't bend. At the threat of, if you do not bow down, then you're going to end up in the fiery furnace, they come back with an answer, and the answer goes something like this: our God is able to deliver us. And even if he does not choose to deliver us, then we're still going to trust our God. And really the bottom line here is that we're not going to bow to your image. We're not going to worship your gods. And go ahead and throw us in the fiery furnace if it comes to that. Our God is able to deliver us. The verse 18, "but if not," is not a glimpse of doubt, but it's a glimpse of them recognizing that God is able, but that does not mean that God is bound in all times of deliverance. Sometimes God chooses to deliver. Sometimes God chooses not to deliver. There's no ambiguity in the response of these 3 Judeans. They say God can, God is able, and if he doesn't, that does not mean he's not God. So don't interpret it as doubt, rather interpret it as confidence. Deliver or not, it doesn't matter, we will not bow. We're not going to serve your gods. So really I think what's here is not doubt, it's confidence. You know, if you were here at Rustin's memorial service, you saw the little video that we showed you of the Gates family singing in the car. And one of the songs they were singing in the car is that song that kids love to sing, that's "He's Able." That's the exact same thing that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are saying here. They're saying, look, God is able. And God can deliver. And even if he doesn't, he's still God. And really what's interesting here is Nebuchadnezzar is saying that God, who is able, can't deliver them from him. And so really it's the God against God here. It's worship that is at stake here. And so they do not bow. They say, look, we don't even have to think about this. Here's the answer. Do what you have to do. We're not bowing. We're not serving your gods. Our God is able. And even if he chooses not to deliver us, we're still not bowing. And lastly here, and number 3, is they would not burn. Verses 24 through verse number 30. So verse 24, king does a count, 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute, 4? Asks the servants, didn't we put 3 men into the furnace? They reply back, that's true, that's what we did. Verse 25, look, he said, I see 4 loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God, or I think the old King James says the Son of the gods, a deity that he's seeing there. Then Nebuchadnezzar went near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spoke to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and said to them, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. And then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came from the midst of the furnace. And the satraps, administrators, governors, and the king's counselors gathered together, and they saw these men whose bodies were in the fire and had no power, whose bodies the fire had no power. Their hair on their head was not singed, nor were their garments affected, nor was the smell of fire was not on them. And Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel to deliver his servants who trusted in him. And they have frustrated the king's word and have yielded their bodies that they should not serve nor worship any god except the God, their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that any people, nation, or language which speaks anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut to pieces, and their houses shall be made ash heap, because there is no other God who can deliver like this. So Nebuchadnezzar is still not redeemed here. Mr. Rage Monster hits one other time. And anybody else, we're going to burn your house down, and we're going to, cut you into pieces. We're going to let you have it. Okay, well, he is taken back by the God who delivers. And here the subpoint is this, that God is the one who is truly worthy of sacrifice. Reviewing Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. You know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not know. Did not know. I mean, usually when you're cast into a burning fiery furnace, you burn up. That's usually what happens. There are stories of some of the reformers who were tied to the stake, and they would actually tell some of the persecutors to put more wood at the base of the fire to enable their death to just take place quicker. One man who was not willing to bend on the practice of infant baptism, an Anglican priest was trying to give a declaration one more time that infant baptism was necessary, and that's why this man was being burned at the stake, and infant baptism was what we needed to practice, and he would not practice it. That's why he's burning at the stake. And the man who was burning at the stake said, "Silence this priest even more, put more fire on the fire, and allow me to die so I do not have to listen to him anymore." And so basically put more fire below him so he would die quicker. He's like, I'm not bending on this. It's going to consume me, I know. You know, I took Anna to Baptist Missions home office here a little while back, and while I was at Baptist Missions home office, there was an interesting thing, and I told the Wednesday night crowd here this, but I'm just going to repeat it really quickly, and then we'll wrap things up here tonight. When you walk into the entryway of Baptist Missions, there's a little display that's there. Back up one slide here if I can. They said, look, a lot of people bristle at this elephant tusk that's there. And you have to understand that this elephant tusk was a legal elephant hunt in Central African Republic that was consumed and used like we would go out and hunt a deer in Africa. And they gave the tusk, carved by one of the African men, to who was the founder and first president of Baptist Missions, and he brought it back to the United States. It was lost for a long, long time, and then several years ago, somebody said that they had it in hand, and so it was brought to Baptist Missions, and it's put there in front. It is not there to say, go poach an elephant, okay? That's not what the message is, but it's actually part of the foundation of Baptist Missions. What's interesting here is what is on the wall. What is on the wall? This is right when you walk into the home office there of Baptist Missions. And Anna's going to point out for us here, this picture here, that man right there is Alexander de Chalendau. And he is smuggling Bibles into Russia. And he has this stack of Bibles, you can't see them there. They're right on the side of the truck there, and he's hiding them in the truck as he's going to cross the border and smuggle Russian Bibles into Russia. What's interesting is Dr. Pat Odell told us the story of the picture that is below here. This picture below here is in Central African Republic during a time when Christian pastors were being persecuted. These 4 men were buried up to their necks in the ground, and then their families were slaughtered right in front of them while they were buried up to their necks. And then they took a large log and they rolled it over their skulls and killed them right on the spot. And those 4 men were pastors that were given the opportunity to recant their Christian beliefs and to return back to the animism practices of Central African Republic, the spirit worship that was accepted in the villages. And they willfully said, look, we're not going to recant. And so they handed them the shovels and they said, then dig your own graves. And so they dug their own graves and stood in their own graves and let them be buried in their own graves and willingly laid down their life for the cause of Christ. I was amazed at this mural, and there's all those pictures. They all have a story that goes with them. But it was just interesting to me that you have two different missionaries here, national pastors and a missionary who was crossing the border. And some of you were here when Alexander de Chalendau would share stories about the car in front of him being taken apart to pieces And then them seeing him and saying, go on, go on. And he's got Bibles like in a box behind his seat that he couldn't fit anywhere else. And they just let him go. There was times that he got stopped and they said, what is this? And he said, it's Bibles. And they said, if I can keep one, you can go. And when he should have been arrested. He should have been thrown into prison. And God just gave such provision. Well, who did God deliver? Did God deliver Alexander Deschanel, but not these 4 pastors? No, it was the same God. It was the same God. The same God who requires of us to be faithful to him because he is a faithful God. And so that's the main drive of this passage. It's not be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There may be qualities there that you can emulate, but it's serve the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He is able, and he can deliver. We need to remind ourselves of that so often. Father, thank you again for these truths here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to walk through them and to learn of them. I pray that you'll help us to carry these things with us even throughout this week now, and we thank you for this in Christ's name. Amen. Let's stand and sing. Thank you, Zach.
Church around.